What's up, y'all? Today's video is going to be a bit different than usual, but earlier today I was kind of thinking that I go out on the boat all the time, and not just my boat. I go on friends' boats and tons of other people's boats all the time, and I kind of see everything that each and every person uses on their boat. So I figured I'd sort of make a video about sort of the necessities that you would maybe want to have on your boat at all times. I don't necessarily have all of these things, so maybe they're not necessities, but I just kind of think these items are pretty cool. Also, this video is not sponsored whatsoever. None of the products in this video are paying me out to sort of promote any of these products for this video. However, some of my sponsors may produce a couple of the products that I will say in the video, but overall, I'm just genuinely trying to share with you some of the best items you could bring out on the lake and would be pretty helpful for your days. Oh, and keep in mind, there is no particular order on which item I think is best to bring out on the lake. I just think all of these are pretty great ones. All right, let's get things started. Something that I think is very beneficial to bring out on the boat every time you go on the lake is to have a very sharp knife, preferably a pocket knife, so it could fold up safely and no one reaches into the glove box and sort of cuts himself. Having a very sharp knife is extremely important, I think. No matter how experienced you are at driving a boat, I think that you're pretty much guaranteed to run over the rope at some point of your life. I had never ran over a rope in my entire life until about 2 weeks ago. I just slowly idled over it while I was talking to a down rider, and luckily there was a very sharp knife in my glove box, and we just got underneath and cut the rope free because it actually bound up very tight around the propeller and there was no possible way I was going to get it off by hand. So having a knife in a situation like this is extremely beneficial. Also, keep in mind that if you are cutting a rope free from underneath the boat, make sure that the boat is completely off, the key is removed from the ignition, and all of the batteries are turned off in this boat, so you can make sure that there's no possible way for this thing to start up while you're underneath there. It is extremely dangerous to be swimming underneath the boat and freeing a rope like this. There could be rollers out on the lake as well, and the hull ends up bonking you in the top of the head. And there's just many other factors. You could end up drowning or just getting injured. And I want to make sure you guys know I'm not responsible for you. You need to be doing something like this at your own risk. Pretty much in general, while boating, you're going to be using a ton of different ropes, from a wakeboard rope, water ski rope, wake surf rope, fishing line, ropes to tie off your cleats to docks, or even like a ratchet strap to winch yourself up on the trailer. This could end up in tons of different sticky situations, and you could always use a very sharp knife to sort of cut yourself out of those situations. The next item I have for you guys is called the hang tight. I'm pretty sure my old team manager from O'Brien Wakeboards invented this one, but basically it's sort of a plastic attachment that clips onto your boat cover, and it runs a rope up to your tower. You pull it down and it lifts the boat cover, so all of the water, whenever it rains, sort of falls off the side of the boat, and there's actually no need to crawl under the cover, and perfectly stand up pulls it eliminates that process. So I think this is a really great invention, and it saves a lot of time whenever you're putting the boat cover on your boat. The next one I have for y'all is called the drop and fill. I'm pretty sure my old team manager, Kobe Mikasic, invented this one as well, but basically it's sort of a plastic rectangular red bucket with a hose coming out of the bottom corner of it, which just runs into the gas tank of your boat. And basically you just take your gas can, unscrew the cap, and flip it upside down and drop it in the bucket, and you don't have to sit there and hold the gas can the entire time. It will just drain all of the fuel, and it'll all just go straight in your boat, and it will definitely save you a lot of effort. This next item is pretty similar to the drop and fill, except it's a little bit more difficult to use, but it does take up way less space. Some of my friends call it a jiggle hose. I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but it's basically just a siphon, a hose with sort of a brass cylinder on the end of it with maybe a little marble inside of it. I'm not exactly sure what's in there, but you take that brass end of the hose, you drop it into the gas can higher than the hole on the side of your boat for the fuel. You put the other end of the hose into your tank, and you just shake that hose with the little marble in there, and it will automatically just start siphoning that gas out of the tank. You don't need to blow air into it or anything like that. So you just shake it a little bit, and then the gas starts flowing, and it'll fill up your boat. Let's talk about lead bags. These things are great. They're heavy and dense and don't really take up that much space, but you don't want to use too many of them. You got to keep in mind that water weight is neutral. So if you have a fat sack full of water and you drop it in the lake, it essentially weighs nothing whenever it's underwater. But if you take a lead bag and you put it in the water, it will instantly just sink straight to the bottom. So if you do run into an issue where your boat is sinking, a fat sack is a little bit safer of an option than using a lead bag. However, the fat sack does take up a ton of space. The reason the lead bags are so great though is that they are really small. They don't really take up that much space. They each weigh 50 pounds a pop, so it is really nice whenever maybe there's too many people on one side of the boat and they do want to hang out over there, but your boat ends up sort of listed to one side. It's nice to just grab one really quick and pick it up and moving it to the other side of the boat, and you can sort of balance your boat so it's more even on the water. I personally would probably never ever want to exceed the limit of maybe 6 bags of lead. Normally when I go on the boat, at most I bring maybe 3 bags, which adds up to about 150 pounds, which is about one person, and moving those 3 around is pretty sufficient for me. But yeah, lead bags, they're great, but don't use too much. Water weight is definitely much safer. Something that I don't personally have, but I do wish that I have, Hyperlite makes it. It's a Sean Murray signature rope, not his pro level one, but he has a different one. I don't really know what it's called, but it has tons of different lengths on the rope. I think it goes all the way down to as low as 50 feet, maybe even less than that, and probably out to 75 or so feet. And I think this is really great, and I wish I had it because I have a lot of different levels of riders coming out on my boat, and I have to sort of tie a loop to get them closer into the boat whenever they need to ride a more slower speed, cleaner wake type riding. And yeah, I just wish I had this rope because you can just set all sorts of different lengths and it's nice and easy. The loops are already there and there's no need for tying knots. The next item is boat cleaner. I've used a ton of different brands over the years and they've all been pretty great, but it is kind of expensive. And what I do normally use is I just go to the grocery store and buy a big bottle of vinegar, and I just mix 50% vinegar, 50% water, put it in a spray bottle. I just use vinegar and water on the boat, and it removes all the water spots extremely easily. I know a lot of people are probably against the vinegar thing, but I love it. If you are against it and you might have a better option, please comment below what could be better or why the vinegar is not so great. But yeah, comment below on what you think might be better. So this is a pretty awesome boat. The brand is called Supreme. Centurion builds these boats as more of a budget-friendly option. It doesn't necessarily come with all of the premium features that a Centurion does. However, this is still a super badass boat. But even though this is the more budget-friendly option, not everyone can afford it, and a lot of people are in the market for used boats, and you might be purchasing, say, a boat from 2004 or even 2010, something like that, and your boat can't necessarily just surf at the flip of a switch like this one. So a great item to have if you have an older inboard boat or even a newer inboard boat that doesn't have the option of just flipping a switch and surf tabs deploy. The great item to have would be basically just a suction gate. If you are on a extreme mega budget, it is possible to build your own suction gate with items just from Home Depot. There are quite a few different suction gate brands such as Fat Sack or Not a Curl, but they all sort of serve the same exact purpose, including the homemade one. It's basically just a couple of suction cups attached to a wedge which sticks to the side of your boat, and whenever your boat is in motion at around 11 miles per hour, it will force your boat into sort of a crab motion, which will force a wave to kind of push out the opposite rear corner of the side the wedge is suction cup to. So overall, the suction gate is great for helping older boats deploy awesome surf waves. When I was talking about lead earlier, I forgot to mention that Fat Sack does make this smaller 50-pound Fat Sack that you can unscrew the cap off of the top of it. There's no pumps required. You just put this bag underwater, scoop the water into it, and screw the cap back onto it, and you can set it in the boat just like a 50-pound lead bag. It is a bit bigger, however, so it does take up a little bit more room, but it does serve the same purpose as a lead bag, so you can just move it back and forth. So yeah, you could get a lead bag over at Fat Sack, or you could get the Fat Sack scoop bag over at Fat Sack as well. They're both great options, but the scoop bag is a little bit safer of one. This is the last one I had on the list, but it's basically just a giant wake surfer. Hyperlite makes one. It's called the Landlocked Wake Surfer, and overall it's just a really big board, and I think it's pretty fun to just ride on and cruise on. You don't need to take things so seriously when you're out cruising behind the boat on it. You could also stack up maybe 1, 2, 3 people on the board and try and get as many people surfing on one board as possible, or if you have a heavier set person on the boat, it's great for them as well. But overall, I think this is a quite enjoyable board to have on the boat, and it's something to do that's a little bit different. That is everything I had on my list, and pretty much everything I could think of off the top of my head today. If you guys do have some really cool things you think are great for boating, please leave that down below in the comments. I'll get back to you and see what kind of great ideas you have. But overall, I think these are all great items to bring out on the boat. If you guys like this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up, comment below what kind of videos you guys want to see in the future. And remember, I'll be uploading a wakeboarding video every second day forever, so make sure you guys subscribe. I'll see y'all next time. Peace!